Thanks for tuning into the Crash Bang Boom podcast for episode 254. Today's guest is Failure drummer Kellii Scott, who's making his second appearance, where we got to talk about Failure's new record, Type Droid, some of the drums used on said record, some of their live setup and general gear geekery, as well as some of our favorite records from 1991, where we're celebrating the 30th year anniversary this year. So I hope y'all dig it. Today's episode is sponsored by my man Carson Gant, a.k.a. OneUpLoops.com. Carson and his team spent a preposterous amount of time recording over 400,000 shaker, tambourine, and hi-hat loops at every possible tempo and multiple feels with incredible mics and outboard gear for you to pick and choose. It's organized for you to find exactly what you need with just a few clicks, and everything feels and sounds incredible. You can sign up for free and check it out and gain full access to all 400,000 loops starting at $5.99 a month. No download limits, whatever you want, whenever you want. New loops, one-shots, and drum breaks are being added weekly. Check it out, and that's OneUpLoops.com. Crash Bang Boom podcast can be found everywhere podcasts are available. Feel free to check out the previous 250-plus episodes. Give me a like and or a subscription and or a positive review if you're feeling up to it. The support is appreciated. All right, here we go. Kellii Scott, Failure, Type Droid, interviewed by Jody Scott. That's a true story as well. Crash Bang Boom.
Crowds go mad with joy.
Yeah! All right, I'm here with Kellii Scott of Failure. Kellii, what's happening, man? I know the last time you were on the show, my buddy and guest host Chris Enriquez caught up with you at Warsaw venue in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
While y'all were touring on the future. In the future, your mind will be the furthest thing from your body. I just got to abbreviate that for in the future. We'll just do in the future.
Your body will be the furthest thing from your mind.
Not doing any favors with the brevity with that one, man.
Yeah, no, it's a mouthful for sure. And actually, sometimes I do have to go back and look. In the future, you're what? Well, yeah.
Absolutely.
It's a lot.
Yeah, and obviously, new Failure record just hot off the presses a couple days ago from when we're doing this interview, Type Droid. Congrats on that.
Yeah, we're in the top 10 on iTunes alternative albums.
That's amazing.
Yeah, last I looked, we were beating out the Foo Fighters.
Holy moly, that's crazy.
Yeah, and we're beating Adele's record from like 10 years ago on the top 100 albums.
Damn, she's got some staying power a decade later, and she's still charting.
I know. Yeah, 21 is at like number 78, and we're at 77, or we were. Right. I don't know where we are today.
Exactly.
It kind of goes like that. Like for a band like us, you sell all of the records that you're generally going to sell in the first couple days, and then you slide off the horizon just as quickly as you entered it.
Totally, man. Well, it's crazy. I believe that was March of 2019 when you and Chris caught up. Like I said, touring on that last record, and it's interesting because I was in Cambodia at the time when y'all caught up, and I remember, in addition to just an awesome trip of going to Thailand and Cambodia and Angkor Wat and doing all that, on the way back, the day that y'all did that, I remember we flew, my wife and I, from Cambodia to Thailand, Thailand to Hong Kong, Hong Kong to LA, and LA to New York. And I gotta say, it fucking sucked.
Yeah. You know what? You actually could have put on in the future, your body will be the furthest thing from your mind when that trip started.
For real.
It would just be ending when you got to New York. That was a long record.
It was, man. It's a really cool record. All the segues, great sounding record, as always, with Failure. Super cool. And but I tell you what, since you and Chris spoke, the world got a little strange since then, huh?
Well, every time you say Chris's name, I'm like, shout out to Spotlights.
Yeah, absolutely.
The world has gotten really weird. Actually, I think we probably would have seen you guys again had it not been for the pandemic.
Right.
Last June, when we were going to do those 3 consecutive shows for the first 3 Failure records.
Right.
Yeah. All that got just like
totally
canceled.
Yeah. Did you go down any weird wormholes over the course of the last year and a half of listening to any particular bands, or have you just been watching Law and Order ad nauseum for a year and a half?
Well, there's been a lot of Law and Order.
Okay.
We've been generally working on the new Failure record over the course of most of this past year.
Okay.
We had some like writing sessions for about 3 weeks, and then extensive demoing before we like finished off the drums out at Grohl's place.
Mm-hmm.
But I've had a health scare. Like I spent the first 3 months, 4 months of the pandemic dealing with cancer.
No way.
Yeah, like right when it started, I was diagnosed with colon cancer.
Oh man.
Yeah, so just before it got really grim, I was able to get in, and they removed 5 inches of my colon.
Damn, dude.
Yeah, clean bill of health, no radiation follow up, no nothing.
Really?
Like I managed to get it really early, so it was just like snip, snip, a couple weeks of healing, and I was like right back to playing and yoga, and yeah,
Wow.
I killed it.
Damn, I guess I need to go get my prostate exam soon.
Please do. Even if you don't want to go, a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to, have them dealing with my asshole or any of that kind of stuff.
I wouldn't say I'm looking forward to it, but
well, at the very least, what you should do is, because more people should start doing it in their 40s, but because it's such a procedure and it's not cheap, they don't prescribe it to people until a lot of times it's like further along, and you could deal with a lot of complications when you find colon cancer a few years after it started.
Damn.
Just tell your doctor you want to do a screening.
Yeah.
You see like the Cologuard on TV, it's like that same thing. You just like wipe your poo, put it in a test tube, send it in, and they'll call you if anything's wrong.
Oh, damn. Okay. I suppose that's an option as well.
Everyone should be doing that, starting at like 40. Because mine was stage 1, and I was 50. So it actually started growing in me somewhere around 40, 42.
Oh, damn. Okay. I'm 45, and I actually have a history of it in my family. So I guess I got to
You should definitely just, at the very least, get a screening.
Gotcha. Okay.
Public service announcement.
Yeah.
Over.
Thank you, Dr. Scott.
Yeah.
Holy moly. Well, I'm glad to see that you're out and on the other side of this thing. Congrats on that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Wow, man. Well, again, congrats on this new record, Type Droid. Definitely keeping with the incredible production of bandmate, engineer, producer, and mixer Ken Andrews. Always loved the sounds that he's cranking out. Such great sounding records throughout the years. And this one certainly is no exception to that history. But I guess tell me a little bit about it. Sounds like you were writing it over the past year and a half. And did I hear you say you recorded drums at Grohl, as in Dave Grohl's?
Yeah. Technically, like we started writing kind of at the height of the pandemic back in August of last year. We rented out one of like the local rehearsal spaces. It's more like people usually rehearse there for tours and stuff. Like it's pretty big.
Yeah.
So we moved in there and brought all of our recording equipment and just spent like 3 weeks, 9 to 5 every day, just jamming.
Wow.
And we recorded all of those jam sessions and wound up with about 30 ideas of jams, which we like over the next few weeks, probably 6-8 weeks, whittled down to about 3 hours.
Gotcha.
And then we had to go through those, and we all just kind of wrote down timestamps that we liked, ideas or bars, or sort of compared notes, and started the demoing process and writing process from there.
Nice, man.
Of those songs that we got from there, we actually wound up keeping the drums from, I think, 5 songs.
Nice.
Either 4 or 5 songs. And the rest of those songs, we recorded drums at 606.
Gotcha.
Back in August, yeah. We did drums in August at his place for the remainder of the songs.
Right. I mean, there's always that sort of Zeppelin approach where it's like you get the drum sound and that's the drum sound for the record. But if you record in 2 different places, obviously those are going to change. But I think one of the interesting things about the more recent Failure records is that particular songs have drums that might sound different from other tracks but suit the song. So there's always this cohesiveness encapsulated within a Failure record, but I like that the drum sounds are mixed up according to song. And I guess if you're going to record it in 2 different places, you might as well do that anyway, because you're not going to get the exact same sound regardless, you know?
For sure. I mean, what the only thing all of those things have in common, I think, fortunately, no matter where I record songs, they all sound like me playing.
Sure.
There's a certain way I hit all of my drums that, no matter what the specific drum sound is, it still sounds like me playing it, which helps when because I tend to like to change snares from song to song, or
Yeah.
maybe even change parts of the kit.
Uh-huh.
So the overall drum sounds themselves can change, but it's still the same person playing them
Sure.
the same way.
Uh-huh.
So they always sound like they belong together.
I really like. There's a bunch of really cool songs in this new record. I really like the song "Submarines." Just the rhythm, upbeat rhythm of it is a really cool song. But were there any particular songs on this record where you switched up a lot of different drums to really suit a particular section and or just that song necessarily?
No, I mean, Water with Hands, Submarines, and Headstand. All of those drums are from the rehearsals.
Oh, cool.
And the only thing different from those takes is I have this habit of like bringing all of my snare drums, but because we were rehearsing, I wasn't really making an effort to change snare drums, because they weren't really songs yet. I was just playing for
Right.
hours and hours every day. So that's pretty much like one of those Ayot Keplinger with the wood hoops.
Nice.
And a VK bell brass.
Oh, nice. I've seen those recently. Those are beautiful.
Yeah, he made me one. I don't know if normally other people get very specific things. The one he made me was a 6.5.
Uh-huh.
And it was a 3 with 5mm re-rings in it.
Wow.
I don't know how often he makes that for other people, but he made me one of those, and I had just gotten it. So that and the Keplinger are the only 2 snares that I used for all of those sessions. And like I said, we kept drums from that for like 4 or 5 of the songs.
Nice.
And the funny thing is out at Grohl's place, I used my Q galvanized steel kit.
Uh-huh.
I used the galvanized steel kit for the entire record.
Awesome.
That never changed. Like cymbals and stuff would change, but in Grohl's, I think I used. I had gotten a 1983 Tama bell brass.
Oh.
That I started with. VK actually, he saw that I was looking for one, and he was like, "Hey, dude, I got an extra one. I'll sell you." So he sold me that as well. And it turns out he had just brought it to Japan and it had it re-lacquered.
Oh.
So when he sent it to me, it literally looks like it was straight off of the shelf.
No way.
It is such a beautiful instrument. It's just mind-blowing.
Wow. I'm jealous that you have one of those. Those are very revered snares, those old Tama bell brass snares, dude.
Yeah. And in this condition is like unheard of.
Right.
So what I used that, and then I used a Superphonic. Actually, I used that Terminator on Bad Translation.
Okay.
Was the first song we did at Grohl's place.
Gotcha.
But then I used the Superphonic, and then I wound up switching to, when Failure got back together, I used almost exclusively this one snare drum for all of The Heart is a Monster, and a lot actually on the last record as well. It's this really weird snare that I had bought it off of eBay with 3 other drums. And when I got it, I didn't realize like how crazy it was. It's this like 3mm thick steel with nickel plating. And it's kind of like the DW knurled snare, where it's got those deep grooves in it.
Uh-huh.
It's super heavy. It's about 32 pounds.
Damn.
I don't know who made it.
Really?
There's like no manufacturing badge. Like I have no idea who made it. It's some weird knockoff thing.
Whoa.
And it is the only snare that I have used live since 2012.
That's wild.
It's a monster.
I was gonna ask you about that one. I saw the badge. I've interviewed the guys up at Q Drums. I love their drums. They sound amazing. They're such big, killer drums.
Yes.
And I saw the badge. I was like, oh, it looks like he's playing Q Drums. And one of my questions was gonna ask you how you've kind of maintained a fairly consistent snare sound live throughout the years. Well, there it is. You've been playing the same snare.
And again, like it's the same person hitting it.
Right. Right.
When I started doing these sessions back in February, one thing that I did do during the pandemic was I bought all of these snare drums that I've always wanted.
Yeah.
And for the first like couple months, I was bringing out like, 5-10 snares, and I was using them all on every single song. And they kind of always almost just sounded the same.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's me playing it.
Yeah.
For the most part, unless I get a particular song where I'm playing like really, really light, then the sound changes. But I love to hit rim shots,
Sure.
and I just generally I have a thing that I really like playing, and it feels really good to put that type of energy on songs.
Yeah.
And snare after snare after snare, wood snares, metal snares, bell brass snares, like they all generally sound the same.
Yeah.
I was very happy about it, but I was also a tiny bit bummed out
Yeah, you got all these snares.
because, I just spent like 25 grand on, snare drums, and they're like in every closet and in the garage. Like, I don't have any space left to store anything else. I just started using actually the Q drums in 2019.
Okay.
For on the last record.
Mm-hmm.
But before that, I mean, I had exclusively drum wise always just used Gretsch.
Yeah.
I endorse Gretsch.
Right.
And all the previous tours, like I would always play Gretsch drums.
Yeah.
But Jeremy got me. I went out and visited one of his places, and I just like to switch it up mainly for tours. And I really love the aesthetic of those galvanized drums.
Oh, they're beautiful.
So I went out to his shop and played one, and they sound ridiculous.
They're badass.
And they're just not, they don't have all those crazy overtones like most metal drums.
That's right.
Because they put those maple re-rings, which really focuses the sound and kind of tampers down some of those unruly frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
The proof being, like, we just recorded a record and they sound phenomenal.
They sound great.
And not once was Ken like, I don't know, man, there's some crazy stuff going on in the sound of those toms.
Mm-hmm.
He's just loved it. I just put him up and we started recording.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Good to know. I was going back and listening to the previous record, again, abbreviated as In the Future. There is a song on there, Distorted Fields, and there's a really weird sounding cymbal that you play in one section, and I have a cymbal that sounds suspiciously like it, which is this weird 18-inch breakbeat effects Zildjian cymbal.
Yeah, it's got like the holes and stuff in it.
This one doesn't have any holes. It's supposed to be like a breakbeat ride that Zach Danziger designed. Was that what you were using on that by any weird chance?
Well, it's funny. The original demo that Ken did, Ken wrote all of it. And he had this insane program drum part that I like worked on and then kind of gave up on it. And, sat around and was like, am I being lazy? Am I not just pushing myself? Can this be played? And I'm sort of giving up too soon.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually sent it to like Dave Elich and a couple other drum friends. And they were like, yeah, I mean, technically you could play it, but it wouldn't sound cool. Like just doesn't have any movement. And it's so like just polyrhythmic and stiff, and like there's no wavering either side to make the beat actually move.
Mm-hmm.
Everything has to be played dead on like a drum machine,
right,
in order to be able to play what he programmed.
Yeah.
So what I did is, okay, so I'm not crazy, and I'm not like giving up and being lazy. So how can I because this has to stay, like it's such an integral part of the way everything in the song was glued together, was this drum beat.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was I basically took what was previously these hi-hat lifts,
Mm-hmm.
which were impossible to play because the kick drum is so syncopated and everything is really syncopated. So I just took them and I put them on this effect cymbal that I borrowed from SIR, like one of those Meinl effect cymbals with holes in it. That's what that is. And then I put it up just above my hi-hat, so I could play like this really fast 16th note groove and just play that as the accents without breaking. Oddly enough, you said break beat.
Right.
So I wouldn't break the beat. I could include that if I set it up really close to the hi-hat.
Yeah.
But that's what that is.
Okay.
And live, I just wound up using a pad.
Oh, gotcha.
I can only have a certain number of mics.
Mm-hmm.
Because of our stage setup, like everything is kind of set in stone.
Right, I believe it.
So I just slowly add more electronics and just plug them into my SPDS.
Yep.
So I just set up a pad that I used for, probably like 2 or 3 other songs.
Nice.
That I could just interchange the sounds from song to song.
Right on. Yeah, it's weird. I'll try to record that breakbeat ride that I have. It sounds very similar. It's super, super dry, almost awkward to play. And I've never actually recorded it to hear how it sounds coming through mics. But when I heard that, I was like, it's kind of uncanny how this, to my ear, sounds like that one that I have. It's interesting. I'll take a picture of it and send it to you so you can see which one it was.
There's a lot of them, and actually that type of sound has become super popular in the drum world over the last
Absolutely
6 or so years.
Yeah.
Like Annika Miles,
Mm-hmm.
that have you ever seen her online?
She's
just crazy technician.
Oh, yeah.
She has a lot of those things, and Thomas Lang has a lot of those things. Like you're seeing more of the like look at me types, like really incorporating just alternative cymbal or even percussive sounds in their setups.
Yeah. You mentioned the live setup and how it's kind of set in stone. I actually had a question for you about that. Once again, in addition to the band sounding amazing in recorded format, live as well always sounds just incredible. And I was going to ask you about those translucent circular baffles that you put in front of the cymbals. I didn't know if that was to decrease bleed through the mics or if it was to keep cymbals out of Ken and Greg's ears, or both.
But how cool do they look?
They look pretty cool, man.
For me, the main purpose of those, because the idea of putting some kind of baffling up has been tossed around for years, and I'm always like, no, fuck that. It always looks stupid.
Right.
And the idea of in a 3-piece band putting one of the people inside of a box just seems like a disaster to sever like that
energy.
Connection.
Yeah, for sure, dude.
It's this guy, he's out of Texas, and he makes them. And as soon as I saw them, I was like, well, there we go. That's the solution. It looks really cool, and it won't snip the connection between me and the other guys. Yeah. But the main reason for it is we record all of our live shows. Basically, our setup is a recording studio put on the stage.
Wow.
There's no live amps. Everything is like in the Axe Effects units. Like I'm the only thing like emitting sound live.
Wow.
And even then, like I have a dedicated number of live drum mics, and everything else is electronic.
Wow.
Yeah, no click tracks. Like everything is played in real time.
Wow.
Which is insane because a lot of the things that I have to play on my electronics are like time delayed stuff.
Right.
So at every given moment, I have to be playing each of those songs in the exact tempo.
Yeah.
So I kind of cheat a little bit. I've just got one of those little flasher things that I can look down to. Like everything changes. We have everything dialed in. Like Ken hits a pedal in between every song, and it moves to all of the sounds and the lyrics and everything for the next song.
Whoa.
And we all run iPads.
It's crazy that that's not locked into a click because, wow, I appreciate it.
It makes it much. Another thing that, I personally am just like begrudgingly, it's a lot more work and it's a lot more like you really have to be on your game from moment to moment.
100%.
But it's, I've been doing it a long time. It's like I'm constantly looking for ways that I can be challenged.
Yeah.
And that definitely is one of the ways. Although that being said, we did these last 2 records. We didn't have any click tracks. We performed everything live. It was great. Everything works the way it is. What would happen if we were to incorporate the technology that I think most people are using, where you actually have a track?
Right.
And you incorporate maybe, because when we record a record, we have to go back and learn it. And then we have to go back and decide which of those parts is absolutely integral to perform this thing live.
Absolutely.
There's a casualty to making the decision of we're not going to use any backing tracks live. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of good songs that, we could be playing if we were to do that. So in the future tour, we chose 2 songs actually from that record where we did it. It sounded great. It felt great. I mean, I record all the records with a click track. Yeah. So it's not a problem to like push and pull and make it feel like it's a living, breathing thing.
Yeah.
There isn't that problem. But the one problem there is it kind of takes out there's no longer any interplay between the band members and any natural flow to a set
Sure.
because you're starting and everyone's got to come in.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody can do anything that isn't supposed to be in there. So it is definitely restricts what you can do, like as a live sort of living, breathing unit.
Yeah.
But I think it enhanced the show because we used it for a very targeted part of the set.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the other hour and a half where we're just like, this crazy loud living, breathing, like, whoa, those guys play really good together.
Absolutely, man. Well, it's wild to think about it, but the first Failure record, Comfort, came out in '92. So that record, and I believe you're not on that one, correct?
No, that is Rob Goss. Rob and Ken started the band.
Right.
In like 1990, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe 89, 90.
Yeah.
And then Greg joined.
Gotcha. That record is coming up on a 30-year anniversary, and then here we are in 2021 with so many incredible records that came out in '91, and then them, of course, coming across their 30th year anniversary. So what's interesting is, like, if you look at '92, it was an interesting year, and then we'll get to '91, but next year, the Failure record will be alongside Faith No More's Angel Dust, Alice in Chains' Dirt, Screaming Trees, Sweet Oblivion, Black Crowes, Southern Melody and Harmony Companion, The Far Side Bizarre Ride, Tom Waits' Bone Machine, the first Rage Against the Machine record, Ministry's Psalm 69, Beastie Boys' Check Your Head, and of course Sade's Love Deluxe. You can't forget Sade putting that out in the
Didn't that first Tool record come out then also?
I believe it did. I believe 92. Yeah, exactly.
Because we toured with Tool in end of 93, 94.
Crazy.
And I actually remember seeing both them and Rage and Alice in Chains at Lollapalooza.
Correct. That was 93.
That year.
Yeah. I saw them as well. They came through New Orleans, and it started at like 2 p.m. during the day, you know, and then like Rage Against the Machine played full broad daylight, as did Tool right after them, and it was crazy seeing those bands.
Rage Against the Machine is like, they are the perfect band to play barbecue style. Because most bands would like be completely diminished and crushed by playing midday,
right?
People just showing up. It's not easy playing when you don't have the support of your show.
Mm-hmm.
All of your lights and sort of the mystery and the, all of that stuff. Anyway, Rage, like, they've never been that type of band.
Yeah.
They play and they crush. And the energy of every single person showing up and just jumping straight up and down.
Yeah.
For an hour long set, like I've never seen back then or still to this day anything like it. It's not like those other shows where there's great energy and there are pockets of people moshing or whatever.
Right. This
is every single person from the front to the back jumping straight up and down. It was insanity.
Yeah. They absolutely bring that energy. It's unbelievable, man. But so that's what Failure will be alongside come next year with that 30th anniversary of that first record. But as we close out December of 2021, I was just thinking about some of the records that came out in 91 that I loved. So I was going to run a few past you and just see what you thought about some of these.
All right.
So 30th year anniversary, Soundgarden's Bad Motorfinger.
Oh, great record. Super great record. Spent a lot of moments like singing in my Chris Cornell Ozzy voice at the top of my lungs in the car to that record.
Yes, absolutely. Matt Cameron ripping some fucking drums on that record. Jesus Christ pose. Every time I hear it, I'm like, dude, he's killing that song, man.
He kills every song.
Yeah,
like from the first record to the last record.
Yeah.
Although I love Bad Motorfinger, Super Unknown is my favorite all-time Soundgarden record.
I'm with you.
Michael Beinhorn, much to their chagrin, much to most people who work with Michael's chagrin, he has a thing. Singers and drummers.
Right.
Get out of your own way, set your ego aside, only play what the song needs. We know you're a great singer. We know you're a great drummer. Now play a song.
Right.
And that like definitively brought them into a completely like different caliber of band, recording band.
I agree, man. I don't know if you ever got much into the Jesus Lizard, but
yes,
Jesus Lizard Goat was 91 as well.
Ken and Greg turned me on to that.
Wow.
They turned me on to that record, and I listened to it nonstop. And actually, while we were on tour, we were in Detroit, and we went and saw the Jesus Lizard play at St. Andrews Hall.
Nice.
And it was absolutely mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing. Dwayne Dennison actually messaged me a couple months ago. He like friended me on Facebook, and just like out of nowhere was like, dude, I love your stuff. Like really short and sweet, but I was like, you know, totally like geeking out. Whoa, Dwayne likes my shit. That's fucking awesome.
That is awesome.
Brilliant, brilliant band.
Yeah, very idiosyncratic, impossible chemistry. Very strange. I've talked about it before where I didn't like them at first, and then they just, I got it, and I've loved them ever since. They're just one of those strange bands.
They remind me of the Pixies in the way that I was in a band in 1989, and we got booked as the opening act on this tour for this band called the Pixies. And I, up until that point, had never really listened to anything except for old rock and, you know, whatever was going out on the Sunset Strip at the time.
Yeah.
Because when I moved to LA, like those were kind of, you know, straight out of high school. Those were the people that I gravitated toward.
Yeah.
And when I heard the Pixies, like it was a serious head scratcher. I was like, what is this? Like, I don't think I like this.
Yeah.
Because I had no reference for it. I'd never heard anything put together in that way before. And visually, they looked really different than any of the bands.
Absolutely.
Aesthetically, I felt that, you know, that looks like a band.
Mm-hmm.
But shortly after that, along with, you know, Steve Albini production, I would fall in love with and the Pod record, the Jesus Lizard.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what it reminds me of, in the sense that they put all of those things together that kind of seemed like they didn't belong together, and they were sort of abrasive and weird the first time you heard them.
Yeah.
But they wrote these amazing pop songs. I mean, that's how I hear them now. Where like one guy was like throwing the kitchen table, and the other guy was juggling knives, and the other guy was like working on a Nova engine, like all of these weird abrasive things together in this like crazy harmony that before that, I mean, I just never heard anything like that. And genius live. Yeah. Like serious technicians live.
They're killer, man. There was a sort of trinity of kind of bizarre bands that also put out some records in 91 between Primus, Sail on the Seas of Cheese, Fishbones, Reality My Surroundings, and the first Mr. Bungle record. And all three of those bands, I remember thinking, like, what absolute bizarre bands. And really, I mean, when I think about alternative, I was like, they're certainly an alternative to something. I don't even know what it is.
Yes.
It's wild as fuck. But all three of those bands put out records that year as well. And I loved all that shit. I ate it up.
Dude, Primus back then, that same band I was talking about that opened for the Pixies, we went up to San Francisco to the I-Beam a few times and opened up for Primus up there.
Oh yeah.
And they were ridiculous. Like they were a modern day Rush.
Right.
Like the level of their playing and like this weird, like nerdy showmanship that they had going on. Like they're ridiculous musicians.
Absolutely.
And they're writing, like how can you write something like that without like having pen and paper? Like, how do you keep track of all of that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Great band. The Mr. Bungle, I really loved Faith No More.
Yeah.
So I had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder that I thought they were like just reaching a level of success. Mm-hmm. Had they, you know, kept it up as a band, you know, because then he started doing all these side things, all of which I totally love now.
Right.
At the time, I was a little hurt that it was probably going to be the end for Faith No More if he kept doing solo stuff.
Right. Well, they put out Angel Dust the next year, and that's my favorite Faith No More record of all time, I would say.
I like the first two. I like the Chuck Mosley record.
Oh, right on.
There's just something about, you know, we gotta roll on, like the garage sort of and they're all so weird. It's like, how did all these guys meet?
Yeah.
Like, where'd they meet one another? Like a serial killer dial-up or something? Like, it was just, they all looked so bizarre from one another.
Absolutely.
Like trying to figure out, like what they had in common that brought them together. But San Francisco, was a very, very eclectic city during that time.
For sure, man. Yeah, cool hip hop shit came out that year too. Cypress Hill's first record, Tribe Called Quest, Low End Theory. You had like My Bloody Valentine, Loveless. Fugazi put out Steady Diet and Nothing. Voivod, who I grew up loving, they took a total sonic left turn and put out this record, Angel Rat, in '91, which I really loved.
That is a good record.
I could talk till tomorrow about releases from '91 alone. It was just such a great year, and it's been that much more nostalgic thinking about it 30 years later about all these records that came out that year. It's just cool as hell.
Yes.
But of course, you mentioned Dave Grohl. Can't talk about '91 without talking about Nirvana's Nevermind, huh?
Great, obviously. Like, that's a really amazing collection of pop songs.
Yeah, for sure.
There's like drum hooks. There's so much butter in that record.
That's the Dave Grohl thing, man. Drum hooks.
Yeah. He's really, really good at writing a song as a drummer in the same way that any like really good crafty pop songwriter writes a song.
Right.
Which is a very, very overlooked talent.
Sure.
That I actually don't hear that getting talked about as much as like, a drummer's ability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he had that in spades. When you hear those songs, you're air drumming every bit as much to the fills, quote unquote, which are so musical, as you are singing along with Kurt. It's all part of that musical expression.
Anyone can play them.
Yeah.
Like any air drummer can play those fills.
Totally.
There's a guitar guy has a big YouTube thing, like did a video on Stuck on You, like breaking down Stuck on You.
Mm-hmm.
The guitar and the sonics, and he like took about 5 minutes to talk about just the drums.
Oh, cool.
And he called them the caveman fills.
Yeah.
Do 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 blatton blatton blatton.
Of course.
Yeah, they're like caveman fills.
Absolutely.
They're much more than that.
Yeah.
For a drummer who has like exponential ability, like a Dave Grohl,
mm-hmm.
to choose to play something like that mm-hmm. instead of all of the other stuff is a talent by itself.
Absolutely.
Like, that's a very, very difficult thing to do, because for the most part, you're fighting like the ego, mm-hmm. the thing that got you playing drums in the first place. The look at me, look at me, look at me. Mm-hmm. And playing drums like that, like having total hyper awareness of the song is asking for more by playing something less, mm-hmm. is a very, very difficult thing to like, respect and give into.
Mm-hmm. I would say you have that.
I have it because I fight with it a lot. Mm-hmm. Like, I constantly am just really, really aware of, I just, at the end of the day, I want to blow somebody's mind. Because in turn it blows my mind. Like, I can't even tell you how many times I'm like, holy shit, did you hear that thing I played?
Yeah.
And that usually is a good sign that I need to go back and get rid of that. For better or for worse, it's still that like 12-year-old that is like screaming,
of course, inside
of me.
Absolutely, man. Kellii Scott, great talking to you, man. Thanks for hanging. Congrats on the new record, and I hope 2022 is a good year for you, buddy.
So far, so good. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, man. All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in as always, and thanks to Kellii for kicking it. Great talking gear and records. I can do that for extended amounts of time, whether the record button is engaged or not. We'll catch you on the next one. Crash, bang, boom.